Archie Moore will fall in 4. Muhammad Ali stood before a wall of skeptical reporters in 1962, his finger jabbing the air with rhythmic precision. 20 years old, brash, and already creating poetry to predict violence. The boxing world laughed. Archie Moore was a legend, the crafty veteran with 141 knockouts. This loud-mouthed kid was just another prospect about to learn respect the hard way. Round 4, Los Angeles, November 15, 1962. Moore crumpled to the canvas exactly as Ali had promised. The laughter stopped. But this wasn't luck. Over the next 15 years, Muhammad Ali would predict the outcome of 19 major fights, calling the exact round of victory with eerie accuracy. Cooper will fall in 5. He did. Liston in 8. Close. He quit on his stool after 7. Patterson in 12. Precise. Terrell in 8. Exact. The world called them prophecies, divine inspiration, supernatural foresight. Sports commentators marveled at his mystical abilities. Opponents grew increasingly unsettled, as if Ali possessed knowledge beyond mortal reach. Even those who hated him couldn't explain how he knew. But here's what nobody understood at the time. Muhammad Ali wasn't predicting the future, he was engineering it. Behind the showmanship and poetry, behind the religious mysticism and theatrical declarations, lay something far more sophisticated, a calculated fusion of psychology, strategy, and self-fulfilling manipulation that would revolutionize combat sports forever. This wasn't magic, it was science. The science of breaking an opponent's mind before ever touching his body. The science of controlling narrative, expectation, and belief itself. So how did he do it? What was the method behind the prophecies? And why did it work so devastatingly well? The technique didn't emerge fully formed. It evolved from necessity, observation, and Ali's unique understanding of human psychology. In the early 1960s, boxing was dominated by stoic warriors, men like Floyd Patterson and Sonny Liston, who let their fists speak. The pre-fight formula was rigid: train in silence, show respect, fight with honor. Ali recognized something others missed. The fight began long before the opening bell. In those weeks of press conferences, weigh-ins, and public appearances, something invisible but powerful was happening. Confidence was being built or eroded. Mental armor was being forged or cracked. The psychological battleground mattered as much as the physical one. His first prediction against Archie Moore wasn't random showmanship. Ali and his trainer, Angelo Dundee, had studied Moore's patterns meticulously. At 39 years old, Moore possessed vast ring intelligence but declining stamina. Ali calculated that by round 4, Moore's legs would fail, his defense would drop, and a sustained assault would finish him. But Ali added a layer of genius. He announced his calculation publicly, transformed tactical analysis into theatrical prophecy. The effect was multiplicative. Moore heard the prediction. Moore's team heard it. The press repeated it endlessly. By fight night, the prophecy had become a psychological weight Moore carried into the ring. When round 4 arrived, Moore wasn't just fighting Ali. He was fighting the prophecy itself, the expectation, the mounting pressure of proving the kid wrong. Every second that ticked toward the predicted moment increased the psychological burden. And when Ali's combinations finally dropped him, the prophecy became reality, cementing Ali's mystique while devastating Moore's confidence in ways punches alone never could. A weapon had been forged. Ali would spend the next decade perfecting it. Listen will fall in 8 to prove I'm great. The rhyme echoed through media outlets for weeks before their February 1964 championship fight. But beneath the poetry lay meticulous calculation. Ali and his team had identified 3 critical factors in Sonny Liston's fighting style, factors that would determine when vulnerability would peak. First, Liston's devastating early rounds. He relied on intimidation and overwhelming power in rounds 1 through 5. Ali's prediction of round 8 meant surviving that initial onslaught, absorbing Liston's best weapons until they dulled. Second, Liston's conditioning. At 32 and carrying significant muscle mass, Liston's stamina curve dropped sharply after round 6. By round 8, his legendary punching power would diminish substantially. Third, psychological erosion. Liston had never faced an opponent who didn't show fear. Ali's prediction, combined with his pre-fight antics and constant verbal assault, planted doubt. If Liston couldn't finish the fight early, if Ali's prophecy stretched toward round 8, Liston would begin questioning everything. The prediction created a self-fulfilling timeline. Ali knew he had to survive early, frustrate Liston's power, and wait for the predetermined moment of vulnerability. The prophecy gave Ali's strategy a target, a psychological finish line that structured his entire tactical approach. When Liston quit on his stool after round 7, close enough to Ali's prediction, the effect was seismic. Ali hadn't just won the heavyweight championship. He demonstrated that combat could be controlled through narrative, that belief could be weaponized, that the mind was as vulnerable as the body. Sports analysts struggled to explain it. Lucky guess, they claimed. But luck doesn't repeat 19 times. What Ali had discovered was something profound. In a sport of physical dominance, the greatest advantage was controlling what your opponent believed was inevitable. Why specific rounds? The precision of Ali's predictions wasn't theatrical flourish. It reflected deep understanding of combat biomechanics and neurological fatigue patterns. Ali didn't just study opponents. He studied the science of how bodies fail under sustained stress. Round selection followed predictable physiological markers. Rounds 1 through 3, both fighters operating on adrenaline, full muscular glycogen, maximum cardiovascular capacity. Early predictions were rare because variables remained too unpredictable. Rounds 4 through 6, the first significant energy depletion. Fighters who relied on explosive power or carried excessive muscle mass hit their first performance cliff. This is where Ali predicted Moore would fall, and he did. Rounds 7 through 9, critical cardiovascular threshold. The body transitions from aerobic to anaerobic energy systems. Defensive reflexes slow. Accumulated microtrauma from absorbed punches begins affecting neurological response time. This zone produced Ali's most frequent predictions because vulnerability peaked predictably. Rounds 10 through 12, the championship rounds. Only supremely conditioned athletes maintained offensive capability here. When Ali predicted late-round finishes, he was calculating mutual exhaustion and betting on his superior conditioning to dominate when his opponent's tank emptied. But Ali added psychological precision to physiological calculation. By announcing the specific round, he created a mental countdown in his opponent's mind. Every round that passed moved closer to the prophecy. The opponent would either rush desperately to prevent it, exhausting himself faster, or fight defensively to survive it, allowing Ali to control pace and accumulate damage. Cleveland Williams in 3, Zora Fali in 7. Each prediction was tactical camouflage disguised as mysticism. While opponents and media fixated on prophecy, Ali was simply declaring when his tactical analysis predicted optimal vulnerability. The mystique served the method, the theater concealed the science, and opponents kept falling exactly when Ali said they would. March 8, 1971. Joe Frazier will fall in 6. The prediction echoed through Madison Square Garden with Ali's characteristic confidence. But this time, something was different. Frazier wasn't a fighter who would break mentally. He was a force of nature, relentless, immune to psychological warfare, driven by genuine hatred for Ali's disrespect. Round 6 came. Frazier didn't fall. Round 15 arrived. Frazier was still standing and landing. His devastating left hook in the final round sent Ali crashing to the canvas. The undefeated record shattered. The prophecy failed spectacularly. Yet watch what Ali did next. He transformed failure into narrative fuel. "I was sick," he claimed. It wasn't the real Muhammad Ali in that ring. He never admitted the prediction was wrong, only that external circumstances had interfered with destiny. The mystique remained intact because Ali controlled the story. Other predictions missed their mark. Oscar Bonavena in 5 took 15 rounds. George Tuvalu by knockout went the full 15-round decision. Ken Norton won't last 6. Norton broke Ali's jaw and won the decision. But here's Ali's genius. Failed predictions disappeared from public memory while successful ones became legend. Ali himself promoted his hits and buried his misses. Sports media cooperated because the prophecy narrative sold papers and drew viewers. The mythology was more valuable than accuracy, and strategically, even failed predictions served a purpose. They forced opponents to train differently, to obsess over preventing a specific round knockout, to fight Ali's tactical game rather than their own. Even when wrong, the predictions created psychological disruption. The failures revealed the truth. Ali wasn't psychic. He was a master manipulator using calculated predictions as psychological weapons. Sometimes the weapon misfired, but its existence changed how opponents prepared, fought, and ultimately fell. Fighting Ali was like fighting a ghost who'd already written the ending. George Chuvalo's words captured what opponents experienced. Before throwing a single punch, they'd spent weeks hearing Ali's prediction, reading headlines about their predetermined doom, fielding reporters' questions about how they'd prevent the prophecy. Ernie Terrell faced perhaps the cruelest psychological warfare. Ali predicted round 8, but Terrell had publicly refused to call Ali by his Muslim name, insisting on Cassius Clay. The prediction became punishment. Ali could have finished Terrell earlier, but deliberately prolonged the fight, all while shouting, "What's my name?" with every punch. Round 8 arrived. Ali delivered the knockout exactly as promised, not because fate demanded it, but because Ali had chosen that moment for maximum humiliation. The prediction wasn't prophecy, it was promise of calculated retribution. Fighters responded differently to Ali's predictions. Some ignored them publicly while obsessing privately. Floyd Patterson trained specifically to survive Ali's predicted 12th round knockout, altering his natural fighting style, which ironically made him more vulnerable to Ali's actual tactics. Others tried psychological counter-warfare. "He's scared," they'd claim. The predictions are desperation, but their voices never matched Ali's volume or charisma. In the media war, Ali dominated absolutely. The most insidious effect? Opponents began fighting the clock instead of the man. As the predicted round approached, their anxiety peaked. Defensive reflexes heightened. Energy expenditure increased. They'd survived to round 7, only 2 more to prevent Ali's round 9 prediction. The psychological burden became a physical weight, and Ali, watching from across the ring, could see it happening. The tightening shoulders, the conservative movement, the fighter fighting his fear instead of his opponent. That's when Ali struck, sometimes earlier than predicted, capitalizing on the opponent's preoccupation with prophecy. The predictions weren't magic. They were manipulation masquerading as destiny. Howard Cosell's voice boomed through television sets across America. "He's done it again. Muhammad Ali has knocked out Cleveland Williams in the 3rd round, exactly as he predicted." The media didn't just report Ali's prophecies, they became essential partners in constructing the mythology. Ali understood something revolutionary about 1960s mass media. Television transformed sports from local entertainment into global spectacle. But TV had a problem. Boxing matches needed storylines to attract non-fans. Ali provided the perfect narrative: superhuman prediction, mystical foresight, impossible accuracy. Sports journalists eagerly amplified every prediction. Pre-fight coverage became dominated by Ali's prophecy. Newspapers ran countdown clocks. Television specials analyzed his prediction history. The media machine needed Ali as much as Ali needed the media. This created a feedback loop of belief. Casual viewers tuned in specifically to see if the prediction would come true. When it did, the mystique grew. When it didn't, Ali's explanations got published while the failure faded from collective memory. Media bias wasn't malicious, it was commercial. The prophecy narrative sold. Ali recognized this power and exploited it ruthlessly. He'd make predictions in rhyming verse, perfect for newspaper headlines. He'd repeat them in different variations across multiple press conferences, ensuring saturation coverage. He'd escalate predictions as fight night approached, generating fresh stories and maintaining media attention. The genius was democratic. You didn't need boxing expertise to understand. He said round 6, and it happened in round 6. The predictions made Ali's tactical brilliance accessible to mass audiences. Grandmothers who'd never watched boxing could appreciate the prophecy narrative. By 1970, Ali's predictions had transcended sports. They'd become cultural phenomena, discussed in barbershops, debated in classrooms, referenced in comedy routines. The media had transformed Ali's psychological tactics into American folklore, and with each amplification, the weapon grew more powerful. February 15, 1978. Muhammad Ali sat in the Las Vegas dressing room, 36 years old, his body deteriorating, his voice already showing early signs of the Parkinson's that would later silence him. Leon Spinks, a 24-year-old Olympic champion with only 7 professional fights, waited in the opposite corner. Ali made no prediction. For the first time in his career, he entered a major fight without declaring the predetermined outcome. The silence itself spoke volumes. The weapon had been retired because Ali knew something the public didn't yet. His body could no longer fulfill the prophecies his mind could still calculate. Spinks won that night. Ali would reclaim the title 7 months later, but the era of prophecies had ended. What remained was their legacy, a permanent transformation of combat sports. Modern fighters still use Ali's template. Conor McGregor predicts rounds. Floyd Mayweather declares invincibility. Every UFC champion who talks trash before a fight is channeling Ali's discovery. The mental battle matters as much as the physical one, but none replicate his precision, because Ali's predictions weren't just marketing. They were tactical weapons forged from deep study, psychological insight, and strategic calculation disguised as mysticism. The science was always there, hidden beneath the poetry. He studied opponents' conditioning, identified biomechanical vulnerabilities, calculated fatigue thresholds, and engineered self-fulfilling psychological pressures. Then he dressed it in prophetic language that captivated the world. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. His hands can't hit what his eyes can't see. Another prediction disguised as poetry. But beneath the verse, physics, geometry, and neurological reaction time. Muhammad Ali didn't predict the future. He built it, round by calculated round, prophecy by engineered prophecy, and the world never understood the difference. That was the greatest prediction of all.